Welcome back. The Rohingya people are caught up in the world's fastest growing refugee crisis. And our guests this morning are two Canadian Red Cross workers who are fresh back from nearby Bangladesh working in the refugee camps. Thank you so much for joining us, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
Angela, I'll start with you this morning. Sure. Can you tell us about the Rohingya people and why they're fleeing Myanmar?
Sure. So since August 25th, 2017, about 688,000 people have fled across the border into Bangladesh, fleeing violence in northern Rakhine State. So just to give some context to that, we're looking at about 3/4 of the population of Calgary, picking up and walking to, say, Saskatoon and camping on the outskirts of the city.
Dr. D'Souza, can you tell us what you worked as an emergency response unit worker, so I'm sure you saw a whole different side to the refugee crisis. Can you tell us what the state of the refugees are when they arrive at the refugee camps in Bangladesh?
So this population, they come, they fled their homes in a moment's notice, and they came with literally nothing. They have nothing except the clothes on their back, and they've traveled for 2 weeks, and they're often on foot and through very difficult conditions, and they really have nothing. They arrive dehydrated and exhausted, and have often been affected by some of the trauma of leaving their home.
And Angela, when they arrive in the refugee camps in Bangladesh across the border, what are the conditions like in the camps?
So what happens is they arrive, they're sort of pointed to a new plot of land. It's a very hilly terrain, muddy hills. They're given rope, they're given tarps, pieces of bamboo. They can construct a makeshift shelter, and that's where they live. And we are talking about, in some cases, tens of thousands of people in an area that used to be sort of a treed-in and foresty area, which has now been just demolished and terraced to make room for more people, or in some cases more than 100,000 people living in these like really cramped, overcrowded conditions.
When you talk about such a crowded environment, I immediately think of the children. Dr. D'Souza, how do you keep child refugees safe in that kind of an environment?
That's a great question. So some of these children have been separated from their families, and one of the mandates of the Red Cross is to help restore the family links. So we try and keep track of these children and reunite them with their family members. And as well, in the hospital, we have a child-friendly space where children are always welcome to come and to play and to just be themselves.
Angela, I know you're from Victoria. Yeah. You're a freelance reporter. You're a storyteller. So I was thinking you might be a great person who can personalize this refugee crisis for us and tell us about a personal interaction you had with a refugee while in Bangladesh.
Right. One that really sticks out in my mind, her name was Asima Begum. She had crossed the border with her 2 young children. She doesn't know where her husband is or his situation. When I met her, she had come to a transit camp. So the transit center is sort of that in-between step for people who are too tired to go any further, too tired to receive those things to make a house or a shelter for themselves in one of these camps or makeshift settlements. Both of her children were malnourished, so she was holding both of them in her arms because, you know, like a healthy kid will hang on to mom. These kids were so tired that she was clutching both of them. So one was 9 months old, one was almost 2 years old. And her strength as she received help for these kids, they get like a high nutrient packet meal that they can be squirted into their mouths. You can see them chew away at it, and all of them are given water for dehydration. And she was asking, what do I do now? Where do I get food? Because the internal strength of one person. I mean, this is someone who I can't even imagine what she's lost or what she's faced on her journey here, but she was automatically thinking, how do I keep going forward? How do I get help for my children? What do I do next? And that was just incredible.
On that, maybe just really quickly, Dr. D'Souza, what's next for the Rohingya Muslims? I mean, how long do they have to spend in this refugee camp? Is there a future for them?
There is a future. Actually, today we have a Faces of Humanity event here in Vancouver that's going to really demonstrate the conditions that they're living in, what we hope for next, and the great work that the Red Cross is doing.
You know, just speaking to that, I mean, the need continues. You know, we see that, you know, we talk about child-friendly spaces. We're looking at education spaces for kids in these camps. The healthcare needs continue. We say the distribution needs. People living in these situations still need food. They still need shelter materials. They need hygiene equipment. So we talk about distributing, toothpaste and toothbrush and soap and laundry detergent, the things that you use for everyday life. Those needs continue. So Red Cross and other aid organizations continue to work in these makeshift settlements to help provide for the needs.
Ladies, thank you so much for the work that you did in Bangladesh and for being a part of the Canadian Red Cross. More information available on that event tonight at the Croatian Cultural Center.